Hello friends, my name is Emile and welcome back to Reach the Peak of the show, where we take the cars of Horizon 3 and put them through the most difficult challenge they can face in this game. A twisty, windy, technical hill course high up in Blizzard Mountain. Today we have 5 vehicles here for you as usual, and we are going to be kicking things off with a returning car. This is the Nissan GT-R. This particular model, however, is the 2017 update. It has 565 horsepower, 467 foot-pound of torque, and weighs 3,933 pounds. It is an S1 class car, 884 in PI when equipped with the snow tyres. It's the most powerful vehicle here today, the torquiest vehicle here today, the heaviest vehicle here today, and the highest in PI. So we have had a couple of Nissan GT-Rs, well in fact all the Nissan GT-Rs, take to the hill climb course now after this one's done. We've had the 2012, the Upgrade Hero, and the Horizon edition. Currently, it is the 2012, the stock car, which is owning the top of the leaderboard, and that is mostly down to its sort of more road-going suspension. The Horizon edition and Upgrade Hero both have sort of racing suspension, and with hard sort of suspension up a course like this, especially when it's very bumpy and off-roady, you don't want a low, hard suspension. The GT-R, or the 2017, should, in theory, be a little bit better, because this car is slightly more comfortable, supposedly, than the 2012 model. As far as it drives, it is very good. I will say, though, the suspension is still pretty darn hard. And the one issue with this GT-R over the other GT-Rs, this one weighs a lot. 3,933 pounds is about 100 pounds more than what the 2012 model weighed, and despite having more power, you know, once you reach about 500 horsepower for a course like this, you don't really need any more. So sort of the extra weight, it isn't helped, you know, by having the extra power. If anything, the extra power makes it a little bit harder because it's a heavier car. It can get a little bit more bogged down. It doesn't really get bogged down, but it can get a little bit more. And you know, the extra power basically means just spinning away more potential power. Admittedly though, this car does have excellent traction. All the Nissan GT-Rs are pretty good cars for this sort of course, although I've got to be honest, I would probably take the 2012 for hill climbing. Although if you're going for the road, take the 2017, because in my opinion it is a better car than the 2012 model. Next up, we have, well, what was originally technically a rally car. This is the 1987 Porsche 959, 450 horsepower, 369 foot-pound of torque, 3,190 pounds of weight. This is an S1 class car, 862 in PI when equipped with the snow tyres. So yeah, the 959 did do a spot of rallying. I can't quite remember which rally it was a part of. I want to say it was the Dakar rally, but I'm not 100% sure. Porsches do have a bit of a rally history though, and as far as this course goes, so far the Porsches have been pretty decent. So yeah, they have been decent enough cars, so I was kind of curious to see how the 959 would do. On paper, it should be very good. It is all-wheel drive, it's mid-engined, unlike most of the other cars that we've had up, which are rear-engined, because of course we've had mostly 911s go up. So yeah, I was kind of curious about this one. As far as this car goes, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, it's really rather excellent for this course. It is very well set up. The suspension, you know, obviously back in the day this was quite a track suspension, but, you know, considering this car is 30 years old now, Jesus, it is a bit more bouncy, which is actually a good thing. You know, it is a little bit higher riding, which is a good thing, you know. That means it can deal with the bumps well. It's got all-wheel drive, which means it's got the traction, and it's got the speed as well, you know. 450 horsepower isn't a lot, but then again, 3,190 pounds, you know, that isn't a lot either, and considering, again, this car's mid-engined, it does mean it does get quicker acceleration than a front-engined all-drive car would have in this configuration. So, yeah, overall, the 959 is a pretty darn fantastic car, if I'm being honest. If you wanted to go ahead and use this car, you can use it stock with just the snow tyres and it's great. Or you can tune this thing up to be a really rally monster, you know. You can put the extra sort of soft rally suspension on this thing and stick some power in it, and you would have a phenomenal, phenomenal rally car. Next up, we go from one supercar of yesteryear to the next in the 1997 Lamborghini Diablo SV, 540 horsepower, 446 foot-pound of torque, 3,474 pounds of weight. It is an S1 class car, 860 in PI. Unlike the 959 and the GT-R, this thing is not all-wheel drive. It is mid-engined, it is rear drive. in terms of today's cars, power to weight ratio might be the best on this vehicle. You know, it's not that far off the power figures of the GT-R, yet it weighs not too much, you know, 3,400 pounds isn't too bad. Maybe the 959 has a better power to weight ratio, I don't really know. I haven't, oh wait, actually there's one car here today that definitely has the better power to ratio, sure, me. Anyways, the Diablo. Honestly, I don't know. I like the Diablo, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people say this is their favourite Lamborghini, and I'm not one of those people. I don't really like the Diablo all that much. It looks cool, don't get me wrong. I prefer it over the Countach, but yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of the Lamborghini Diablo. As far as it goes up here, it can be good. It's a fairly decent car for a supercar. It does feel extraordinarily heavy. I will give it that, you know. This is quite heavy for a supercar, you know, 3,400 pounds. I believe, like, a modern-day Aventador isn't too far off that figure, and, you know, that has all-wheel drive and 700 horsepower, so... yeah, this thing does feel a little bit heavy. It can get a little bit bogged down because, obviously, the rear end of this car does weigh a lot. It is quick, though, in a straight line, you know. It's probably one of the quicker cars here today. It won't surprise me if this thing in a straight line is slightly quicker than the Nissan GT-R once it sort of gets rolling. But ultimately, I probably would skip on the Diablo. If you want sort of to use a Lamborghini as a rally car, if you're feeling a bit stupid, then I would recommend one of the all-wheel drive alternatives. In fact, the one I'd recommend the most would probably be the Gallardo. You know, that has sort of more power than this, but it has the all-wheel drive system, which really does help it. So, if you've got to build a Lamborghini rally car, I'd probably take a look at that. Next up, we have the car which actually does, I believe, have the highest power to weight ratio here today. It is the Talbot Sunbeam. This particular version is the Upgrade Hero. 311 horsepower, 278 foot-pound of torque, 1,848 pounds of weight. This is an A-class car, 800 PI, equipped to the snow tyres. Once you upgrade it to the Upgrade Hero variant, it does come with the snow tyres as standard. Yeah, the Sunbeam, we've had this version go up in stock form, and while I thought it was a good car, it was ruined entirely by its terrible differential. The Upgrade Hero aims to fix that by basically completely gutting this car. It has a much upgraded engine, you know, it has double the horsepower of the older model, but it weighs a lot less. It weighs like 300 pounds less than the standard car, and the standard car is a very light thing. Of course, the trade-off to that is the fact that this vehicle is indeed rear-wheel drive, just like the normal Sunbeam, so we're not going to be setting any track records with this. If this thing was all-wheel drive, I have no doubt this thing could be contending with the Subaru Brat as far as our fastest A-class car. But how does it drive? It is very light, as you'd expect. This thing feels, you know, especially coming from the Diablo to this felt just so light and precise. It was strange. It can slide, and it is a little bit twitchy. It can sort of let go from underneath you. You do have to be awake when driving this car. Although, of course, as you'd expect, your awakeness is rewarded by the fact that this car is quick. It is very, very fast indeed when it comes to the straight line. You can see there, though, you can bog it down a little bit. It is a weird handling car to drive, this one. I never really truly got used to actually driving this vehicle, but it was, you know, it's nothing bad. And again, what I would recommend that you do if you're looking to run the Sunbeam in this configuration is I would all-wheel drive swap it personally, and then you have an extremely fast rally car on your hands. You know, it'll be extremely lightweight, good power to weight ratio, so on. If you want to run it in rear-wheel drive, guys, I'd probably avoid the snow. While it does deal with it's okay, it's just a little bit too tricky. If you want to run this thing, you're probably better off running it on the normal Horizon road courses and dirt courses around the game. Finally today, we have a very interesting car. This is a 1956 Lotus 11. It has 83 horsepower, 74 foot-pound of torque, and weighs 1,079 pounds. It is a B-class car, 636 MPI when equipped with snow tyres. It is the least powerful vehicle here today, unsurprisingly. The least torquey vehicle here today, unsurprisingly. The lightest car of today, which is pretty incredible when you consider the Talbot Sunbeams in this episode. Usually that will take the lightweight crown by far, but this thing is very, very light indeed. And it's the lowest PI car. So, the Lotus 11 possibly the lightest car in the game, save for the Isetta from stock, I believe. I don't think there's anything that gets close to this in terms of lightness. Maybe the Reliant? The Reliant might be a bit lighter. But yeah, honestly, there's not really much useful that would be sort of around this light. You know, nothing this light has this sort of power behind it either way. You know, while 82 horsepower, it isn't a lot. You know, I'm not going to pretend it is. With a car being this light, it can feel it. As far as it goes to drive, it's decent. It can break traction and bog pretty easily. You do have to sort of watch the steering on it. But it is very good. You know, you can tell it's light. It sort of hovers over the course, essentially. We had this sort of same feeling with cars like the Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale. Of course, that was only £1,500. You know, those sort of cars feel like they're almost wafting over the course, and this kind of feels similar to those. If you wanted something very strange to go rallying in, the 11 might not be a bad car to go with. Yeah, certainly it would be different, and I believe you can all-wheel drive sort this as well. The one thing I will recommend, if you do decide to take the Lotus 11 sort of rallying, don't go over B-Class, don't put over 100 horsepower in this thing, because it becomes a death machine, pretty much. I believe in the old Forza games you used to be able to swap an Evora engine into this. I'm not quite sure what the modern day engine swaps are. Wouldn't surprise me if the 2-litre VTEC's there, and that can get over 700 horsepower. You don't want 700 horsepower in the Lotus 11, unless you really like trees and want to become one with a tree, which I wouldn't really recommend doing if you want to set a good lap time, because you can't set a good lap time if you are a tree. That was a weird sentence to say. Anyways, we move on to the times for today, and it is the 2017 GT-R, which is the fastest car today, unsurprisingly. Goes into 14th with a 2:03.457. Interestingly enough, slower than the Horizon Edition and slower than the 2012 GT-R. That extra weight really didn't help it. Still, that is a phenomenally quick time. Beats an RS200, beats the EB110, beats the Lola, so solid time from the GT-R there. Moving down the board some more, we find the 959 in 25th place with a 206.160, a little bit quicker than the Land Rover Defender, only slightly off a Bentley EXP 10 Speed 6, which is actually pretty good when you consider that car's almost like a modern equivalent of the 959 in the sense that it's an all-wheel drive kind of GT car, and yeah, pretty good time from that car. Moving down the board some more, the Diablo goes into 47th with a 209.263, sort of around where most of the classic supercars go. It's slightly off a Ferrari F50, F40. Pretty decent time from the Diablo, considering that thing wasn't the nicest car to drive. Again, I probably wouldn't recommend going with that vehicle. The Talbot Sunbeam goes into 77th with a 215.435. Pretty good time, beats the R32, R33 and the Falcon. A little bit off of a Jaguar F-Pace and an F-Type R. It is considerably quicker than the stock version of the car is, and that's the sort of important thing there. And moving down the board once more, we find the Lotus 11 in 172nd place with a 228.949. It's a little bit off a Porsche 550 Spider, which I guess is kind of a thing, considering that car is a bit more powerful. Beats Civic Type R, 850R, Firebird. Considering how little power that car has, that's pretty darn impressive. Anyways, friends, I want to thank you for watching this episode of Reach the Peak, and until next time, a farewell.